Barrett is a much more lush, fleshed out sounding album. I think it's I think Dave Gilmour, who produced it, obviously made a real effort to make it sound like a real sort of finished product. I think he was maybe aware of the flaws that Madcap have. But I mean, I wonder if it went a little bit too far the other way.
It's trying too hard to be a conventional record that you might get played on the radio. That's the problem with it. I mean, there are flashes of great songwriting in there, but it doesn't have... And you have to be careful not to romanticize it and say the great thing about Madcap Laughs is because it is so mad and Syd is so out there. But in a way that is true. And when you try and confine that crazy genius into a more conventional format that, as I say, might even get you on the radio, I think you've got problems, and that's what you hear on that record.
For me, the second Syd Barrett solo album, Barrett, is not really about him. It's too focused, too commercial, too smooth. Yes, the songs are fabulous. Yes, it's probably better as a body of work than the Madcap Laughs. However, because other influences were being brought to bear, outside pressures from producers like Roger Waters, with Dave Gilmour, with Richard Wright, and Ian Mai's influence was there because they were running scared as to exactly what Syd Barrett was going to come up with if he was allowed just to reign free, as it were. So they imposed, and by imposing their own parameters and the parameters of the musicians he worked with, I think what you end up with is an album that's terribly disappointing.
Nonetheless, Barrett does contain some memorable and striking songs. Among them, Baby Lemonade, Gigolo Aunt and the enigmatic Dominoes.
I think it works very well on that particular one. Again, with the sort of the long drony organs and the sort of weird phasing on the drums, I think.
After the album failed to chart, Syd retreated to the sanctuary of his hometown of Cambridge, and after several aborted attempts to perform and record, finally vanished from public life altogether. To this day, he lives a reclusive life in Cambridge, shunning press and having little to do with the music that made him famous. However, in his absence, his legend has continued to grow. It has been further fuelled by the appearance of several compilation albums containing previously unreleased material. One of the best loved of these rare tracks is Opal, which was made available in October 1988, a full 18 years after the release of his final album.
On a distant shore, miles from land, stands the ebony totem in ebony sand, a dream in a mist of grey, on a far distant shore.
Opal is a song that I feel represents one of the finest moments in Syd Barrett's songwriting and musicianship career, to call it musicianship career if you will. And one of the reasons is it's so unnerving and unpredictable. You never quite know what you're going to get. Even the title itself says nothing except, here's a song, just listen to it. Syd Barrett always had that ability to let his imagination run riot. And if he was allowed to do that, what he ended up with was a stream of consciousness that was almost to the point of being completely ridiculous, but yet strangely was focused, strangely was a raging storm with a sense of calm right at its centre.
Weird chords. I mean, whether that's just because his guitar was somewhat out of tune that day, I don't know. But these, it goes into this sort of long sort of instrumental section. You could almost sort of imagine a string quartet playing it, you know, these sort of desolate, long, drawn-out chords. And again, sort of, you know, more of that sort of wonderful imagery, you know, a dream in a mist of grey.
I mean, it's an amazing song. I mean, the imagery on a far distant shore, and that is why people still talk about Syd Barrett and why people still buy his recordings and still listen to them.
I feel that the one album that Syd Barrett did with Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, plus his 2 solo albums, really encapsulate brilliantly what that man was all about in a certain sense of his life. 4 years, 3 albums, that's all it is, but it really does still capture the imagination, because this is Syd Barrett.
He was an extraordinary figure and an extraordinary songwriter who in a very brief period of time made a remarkable impact on English pop music.
But no answer came. He looked and understood the silence. With a smile of much happiness on his face and something of a listening look still lingering there, the weary rat was fast asleep.
In the sad town, coal iron hands clap, the party of clowns outside.